Well, we begin in Egypt, where the country's military says debris, which is believed to be from flight MS-804, has been found off the coast of Alexandria. The plane vanished over the Mediterranean while traveling from Paris to Cairo on Thursday night. Egyptian state television now reports that the Egyptian Navy is searching for the black box and has found some passengers' belongings. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on Friday ordered the Civil Aviation Ministry, the Army's Search and Rescue Center, the Navy and the Air Force to take all necessary steps to locate debris from the aircraft. The Egyptian Prime Minister Sharif Ismail said it was too early to rule out any explanation for the disaster, while the country's aviation minister said a terrorist attack was more likely than a technical failure. Greece's defense minister said the radar showed the Airbus A320 had made two sharp turns and dropped more than 25,000 feet before plunging into the sea. Well, our correspondents both in Egypt and in France are following this story very closely for us. We're joined now by Yasser Hakim in Cairo. Kate Parkinson is live with us from Paris. Yasser, let's start with you. Of course, we know there's been some recent developments with regards to some debris having been found. What more can you tell us about this?
Yes, it's a big development here that will go a long way in determining how or where this plane has gone. It's 290 kilometers north of Alexandria. That's inside the Egyptian waters and just outside the Greek borders, sea borders with Egypt. And we're not being given any details about what kind of belongings were found so far and the type of wreckage that is. But we're told that the operation is continuing. They're trying to find more. The scope of the search operation has widened. That's a bit far than from where the operation started yesterday. They've widened the scope, and that's where they found the debris. At this point, I guess it's also about changing the focus of the attention from Cairo to Alexandria. We believe that maybe the families of the victims will be taken to Alexandria. Probably this will happen, which is closer city to where the wreckage has been found. And also the investigation team that has arrived today. There were three from France and one from the Airbus company. They are experts who will be joining in the investigation team with the Egyptian, Greek and French experts to form the investigation committee that will continue to analyze the findings and also what has caused the plane to crash.
Well, Kate, let's bring you in for a minute here. We just heard Yasser there mention that French investigators as well as a technical team from Airbus have now officially arrived in Cairo. Exactly what role are they expected to play in these investigations?
Well, yes, that's correct. The French authorities dispatched a team of 3 investigators and a technical expert from Airbus to Cairo last night. They arrived in Cairo in the early hours of Friday morning. They will join the investigation. Of course, this is an Egyptian-led investigation, but the French investigators will play a close role. Of course, the plane left from Paris airport. The plane was manufactured in France. Airbus, the European air manufacturer, is based in the southern French city of Toulouse. And of course, there were 15 French citizens on board, the second highest number of any nationality. Of course, the majority were from Egypt. And so France is going to play a very close role. The French President François Hollande has said they are determined to get to the bottom of this, to find out exactly why this aeroplane dropped out of the sky. And French investigators do have a lot of experience in crash investigations. It was investigators from France's Air Accident Investigation Office, BEA, which led the investigation into the disappeared Air France plane back in 2009, which vanished in above the Atlantic. But it won't be an easy task. Certainly, even though we are hearing that debris has been found, it could take considerably longer to determine why the plane crashed. If we look at that investigation back in 2009 as a point of comparison, back then it took the investigators 2 years to find the black box. So certainly for the friends and families of the passengers waiting for news, waiting for answers, well, they could still have a long wait ahead of them.
And Yasser, of course, on that note, it might be a long time before we know exactly what caused this incident. But we know that the aviation minister in Egypt has already said that a terrorist attack is more likely than a technical failure. What information is he presenting to support this particular theory?
Yes, it was a kind of a surprise that he went so early in the situation to say so. But I think he was taking an analysis from what has happened with the Russian passenger jet 6 months ago. It was quite similar in the way that it suddenly disappeared from the radars without any warning or any distress signal from the pilot. And when it was found crashed in Sinai, and presume that it's a terrorist attack which ISIL had claimed responsibility for. So if you look at the circumstances, quite the same, except that this time it's fallen in the sea, which makes it harder to collect the debris or to get the black boxes from deep in the Mediterranean. It was much easier on land in Sinai. But the circumstances are the same. The difference, of course, is that no one has claimed responsibility so far, like what has happened the last time. So that leaves this open a bit. And also, it's all speculations at this point. It's not yet quite sure what has happened. But what the minister was saying is just based on these facts or information and signs. He called them signs that show that the conclusion might be, and he said might be, a terrorist attack rather than a technical fault.
Yeah, of course, all speculation at this point. But Kate, the people of Paris in particular, all too familiar with the reality of terrorism. What's the reaction that side then on the possibility that this too may have been a terror attack?
Well, again, we do have to be careful about jumping to conclusions. As Yasser said, there is no evidence at this stage, although it is a theory that we are hearing bandied around a lot. But we do have to be careful about jumping to any conclusions. Nevertheless, of course, as you said, people in France acutely aware of the ongoing terror threat. It was just 6 months ago that there was a string of terror attacks here in Paris, in which 130 people were killed, and that, of course, was the second major terror attack in Paris in 2015. So people acutely aware of the threat, and in fact, it was just yesterday that the head of France's spy agency said that so-called Islamic State terrorists are planning a wave of bomb attacks here in France next month during the Euro 2016 football championships, which France is hosting. And it was also on Thursday that French lawmakers voted to extend the state of emergency, which has been in place since November, for another 2 months. So yes, people here in France are very aware of the ongoing threat, and certainly the fact that this plane has disappeared and people are saying that it may be linked to terrorism does make people nervous, but at the same time people very keen not to jump to conclusions until there is some evidence as to exactly what brought this plane down.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much, Kate Parkinson, live for us there in Paris, and Yasser Hakim joining us live from Cairo.